This week on Talking Pictures with Neil Rosen, we'll look at the new movie The Wedding Banquet, Robert De Niro's latest, The Alto Knights, where he plays dual mobster roles, a documentary about the late comedian Andy Kaufman, the spy thriller Black Bag with Cate Blanchett and Michael Fassbender, plus the British comedy drama The Penguin Lessons, along with my interview with its star, Steve Coogan. We've got all that and many more movie picks coming up. I'm Neil Rosen, and welcome to Talking Pictures. It's our monthly Critic Roundtable show, where we debate what's worth watching and what's not when it comes to new releases, hidden gems, and Hollywood classics. Joining me today are Bill McCuddy from the very popular podcast, Sitting Around Talking Movies, Lisa Rosman from The Ruby Report, and Roger Friedman from Showbiz 411. Now let's start out with a look at several new films or series in theaters and or streaming, beginning with the new movie, The Wedding Banquet. Let's take a look at a clip.
He would be such a good mom.
So would you.
Doesn't matter if it's Lee or me, because we don't have the money.
His visa runs out in a few months and he doesn't want to go back to Korea.
My grandmother doesn't know I'm gay.
You come out, they cut you off.
I have a proposal. You marry me, and I'll pay for Liz to grow a baby.
What?
Me?
Lisa, let's talk about The Wedding Banquet.
All right, Neil.
You're invited.
Okay, so this is a four-way queer love story that's actually a remake of a 1993 Ang Lee movie. But the premise is as modern as they come. It's directed and written by Fire Island Helmer Andrew Ahn, and that it reunites him with SNL's Bowen Yang as a commitment phobe whose rich Korean boyfriend needs to get married before his student visa runs out. Since Bowen won't do it, and this guy's homophobic family doesn't know he's gay, they arrange for him to marry Bowen's best friend and housemate, Kelly Marie Tran, who needs money for the IVF procedure for her partner, Lily Gladstone's. Do you have all that? Because it's a lot.
That's a lot.
Exactly, and that's the thing. So you throw in Joan Chen as Kelly's boundaryless mother, and you've got hijinks and visual gags, including a hilariously ill-fated attempt to de-gay their household. At times, I'll be honest, I think the pacing is a little underwhelming here, and I think Gladstone is underused. But this is a heartfelt, nuanced exploration of what family really can be in 2025, with really lush cinematography, and as a bonus, I consider it a direct rebuke of the retrogressive hate that's sweeping this country right now.
Well, the other thing it rebukes is the normal rom-com rules, because
Yes.
for good on them that the mother who shows up that's supposed to be part of all this ruse almost instantly dismisses it and goes, all right, what's really going on here? And they have to sit her down and explain the whole thing. And she goes, okay, I'll make you a deal. And that's all really interesting. I think I'm recommending the film along with you, I guess, but I think Bowen Yang is underused and underwritten, and people who love him from Saturday Night Live, it's not a chuckle fest from beginning to end. It's heartwarming and heartfelt. It's cliched in places, but I do recommend it.
Roger.
First of all, I'm interested to know that Joan Chen has gotten out of the doorknob on Twin Peaks. That's a really big deal.
Okay, man.
Second
Google
is,
that.
everyone should go back to the original movie because it really was a winner. And the Ang Lee version was just terrific. And nothing competes with that.
Well,
Yeah.
a lot has happened in over 30 years since the original came out. And it's very hard to update a film, but I think the co-writer and director, Andrew Ahn, has done exactly that, and I credit him for that. And I like the cast. I think, to your point, it does lag in some spots, but I think overall, it's witty and it's incisive at times, and it's funny at times, and it's also kind of emotional at times. So I would recommend the movie. Bill, tell us about the Judy Greer movie, Eric LaRue.
Well, I think the headline here is that it was directed by Michael Shannon, the first time he's done anything, and it premiered 3 years ago or 2 years ago at the Tribeca Film Festival. Yes, Judy Greer is a grieving mother of the title character, Eric LaRue. She's married to Alexander Skarsgård, and she's great at playing a grieving mother. It's directed by an actor, it stars great actors, it's an actor's movie for actors, but the rest of us, I'm not so sure. The storyline has two church groups kind of competing for this grieving mother to come and tell her story in front of the other grieving mothers of the kid that shot them. So I can't. It sort of becomes like Dateline versus 48 Hours fighting over this
That's
storyline.
a very, very well.
And I
very
think
good
it drags a
analogy.
little too much. Judy Greer is playing against type, and she's really, really good, but it goes on for a long time.
Yeah. Roger?
The movie is kind of a mess. The screenplay makes absolutely no sense. The more you think about it, the less sense it makes. I love Judy Greer. I thought Alexander Skarsgård did a good job, and I actually thought Michael Shannon's direction was okay. So I understood that part of it. But the whole gist of a kid who shot up a school, right? And then, of course, one of the strangest things is that the kid comes in toward the end. You don't see him toward the end of the movie, and his parents are both very blonde, and he has dark hair and looks nothing like them.
Apparently adopted.
Maybe they adopted this kid, but I didn't understand where he got the guns from or why he did it. He didn't understand why he did it. It was kind of I thought the screenplay was a mess. The competing church things didn't make any sense to me. But like I say, Judy Greer was great.
You know, this whole movie, first of all, this is not an entertaining movie to watch. It's a very tough movie to watch. But I think Judy Greer, again, as you said, Bill, playing against type, does a tremendous job. I think the rest of the cast does a tremendous job as well.
Skarsgård's a little over the top.
This movie is about tough decisions. I mean, she's grieving. They want her to confront the mothers of the victims that the kid shot. She has to decide whether she wants to visit the son who she hasn't visited in prison. There's some very striking scenes in this thing. There's one scene in the beginning when she's, you know, just all messed up and she decides to go back to work. And some guy's harassing her and wants to buy guns.
Yeah, that was good. That was a great scene.
Store. And the guy...
Well, he's goading her, obviously.
Yeah, because he wanted to buy candles. And she said, no, I want you as my salesperson. I want to know, what are you using these guns for? And, you know, she goes to me and goes,
you're good at an obnoxious guy.
Whatever. You know, and there are numerous scenes like that throughout the film where you just go like, wow. But this is a very hard watch. It's a very hard sit. It's a very difficult subject matter. But I would say that it is an important film and worth watching.
Look, at the risk of sounding cold, the terrain of family with killer son has been covered a lot lately, especially in the Netflix series Adolescence, which is way better. And this is a very inert, uninsightful treatment of the material. It wastes its excellent cast. And sorry, our time. I think it was originally a play. I think it should have remained a play since it makes nothing of the medium of cinema. And I don't think it would have hit theaters if the director, Michael Shannon, wasn't so respected as an actor.
Thank You Very Much is the name of a new documentary about the life and career of the late comedian, performance artist, if you will, Andy Kaufman. Let's take a look at a clip.
Ladies and gentlemen, so far everything I have done for you tonight, really I am only fooling. This is really me. And everything else was just a character.
He used a mirror, and people didn't like what they saw a lot of the time.
I would still like to know who the real Andy is.
Bill, what's up with Thank You Very Much?
Well, I wish there was more up with it, and I'll tell you why. I think this movie falls into two categories as far as audience is concerned. Yes, Robin Williams is talking about him. Yes, Lorne Michaels from 35 years ago is talking about him. You know, Lorne Michaels is still alive and might have a new opinion on Andy Kaufman. But this falls into two groups of people. One, people who've never heard of Andy Kaufman and therefore won't care, and people who do like Andy Kaufman and have heard all of these stories before. I can't recommend this film because the only new guy in it is Bob Zmuda, who was his alleged writing partner, and played Tony Clifton sometimes, the alter ego, which is the only interesting part of Andy Kaufman that really deserved more attention, but they never bring any of that up. There's a lot missing here, and what is there is ages old, including Steve Martin and other just clips from other things that they've piled together. Can't recommend this.
You know what's weird?
For like 3 seconds.
Okay, actually, I disagree with you.
I do too.
You guys know I'm so sick of you shoving these like documentaries about comics like who are in their old white guys down my throat. But I liked this one. I think Andy Kaufman is arguably the most fascinating, definitely the most enigmatic figure of 70s comedy. And
yeah,
I watch
you know his story.
Okay, I'm talking.
You know his story.
I'm talking. I watch everything about him, and I'm always a little underwhelmed by the treatment of him because they never really get into how much did he disappear into his bits. And I think this doc is the best exploration of that question. I love the interviews with Laurie Anderson, who, by the way, I haven't seen in any of the other documentaries, and she's amazing. I love what they got out of Danny DeVito in this. I think it goes deeper into his spirituality.
From Charlie Rose 30 years ago?
I like that it went deeper into his spirituality, and the only beef I have with this is I think it leans too hard into this cockamamie theory about his childhood.
I have to say, I really like this movie, and I recommend it. Now, Bill, you have more of a comedy background. You know a lot about these people.
I'm just a fan of comedy.
Okay, we're the same age.
Did you learn anything?
I did learn a lot.
All right.
And I did actually like the thing about the childhood. I thought that was interesting. Like, what caused his trauma?
That
He
was
had
a lot
of
shoved
trauma.
onto one event in his childhood. I'm
Well,
sorry.
something
It piles every
obviously-
bet
A
onto
lot of
one.
people lie to their kids and they don't turn into Cliff.
But one thing I will say is that they didn't discuss, and I thought, I don't know if this is true or not, but I thought this is obviously a bipolar person or a schizophrenic person.
Yes.
And they never mentioned that, but it's obvious that he was. It's completely
Well, that's
obvious
what I meant about
that's how
I wonder-
Clifton
yeah.
listed.
The Clifton being the most interesting character.
I am
Yeah.
very mixed on this particular movie. I've seen
okay,
a
good.
lot of
Weigh in.
stuff and a lot of documentaries and read a lot about Andy Kaufman. And I remember I saw Andy Kaufman at the Improv in New York before Taxi, before any of this
Okay,
stuff.
you win.
Get him a
Here's the
hoodie.
thing.
What are you,
Give him a
90?
medal.
As far as this event which I'm not buying into at all, that because his grandfather
Yeah, that was bold.
died when he was a young child at 5 years old, and they didn't tell the grandfather that he died, that they said that he just moved away somewhere, and that is the basis for all of Andy Kaufman's comedy and pranking. I'm not buying into that at all. Additionally, this thing's missing from this. If you know about Andy
that's what I
Kaufman,
said.
Elaine Boozler, who was his girlfriend for many, many years and actually got her into stand-up comedy. She was just actually a singer at the Improv, and she has some fascinating stories about her relationship with him and how he created this persona. That's missing from the
Well, they
documentary.
only had one room for one girlfriend. They have one girlfriend in there for an extended period of
Wait,
time.
you
I
just
like
said
the
really
Danny
annoying
DeVito
me.
comments in the thing. They look more recent than the Lorne Michaels stuff. But I think that, as they say numerous times in this documentary, you either get Andy Kaufman's humor or you don't. If you're a fan of Andy Kaufman, you will like the movie. If you're not a fan, or if you don't know anything about Andy Kaufman and you don't get it, you're going to just sit there going like, what is
Right,
this?
I said
I
that.
recommend the movie with Jim Carrey called Man on the Moon. I think that's a much better exploration of Andy Kaufman. Lisa, tell us about the new film, Audrey's Children.
All right, Neil. This is a lackluster but very well-intended biopic based on the under-recognized career of the groundbreaking Dr. Audrey Evans. She was a pediatric oncologist who launched the modern staging system in cancer treatment, as well as Ronald McDonald House. Okay. So Game of Thrones' Natalie Dormer plays Dr. Audrey with all of the required pluck and emotional depth, and director Ami Khan Mann and writer Julia Fisher-Farben faithfully recreate the institutional sexism that held her back. But here's the problem. Even though this true-to-life woman and this true-to-life feminist David and Goliath tale is inspirational, as a movie, it's pretty by the book. And you might even say, shall we say, rote.
Roger, I know you love this one, Roger.
I don't get paid for this gig, and you couldn't pay me to watch this movie again. I appreciate that she was a great doctor, and I thought Natalie Dormer was just very nice, but there's no plot, there's no reason to watch it. It's not fiction, it's like a documentary
there's a
with
plot.
actors.
There's a plot.
There's not really a plot.
It's boringly told.
is
It's
boringly
like something
told.
that you would watch on an overhead projector.
Look, I
It's
am
great.
the most feminist woman in this board, but I still thought it was a dull film.
There was an expression where something would say years ago, nobody could relate to this anymore, a TV movie of the week. This
Yeah.
is kind of what this reminded me of in a lot of
I don't
ways.
even know if this would make Channel 13.
It's a little better than a Lifetime movie, but I have to say this patient is terminal.
Wait till it streams. Do not pay money to see this in the theater. Roger, tell us about a movie that surprisingly I really loved called The Penguin Lessons.
Yeah, it's an incredibly charming film starring Steve Coogan as a guy named Tom Michelle, who was a Brit in the 70s. He was a young guy. In the movie, it's Steve Coogan, who's about 30 years older, but it doesn't matter about the age. And he's an expat who's teaching English around the world because he's just unhappy being at home. And he winds up in Buenos Aires, where he goes to work at a private boys' school and is befriended by a penguin. Now, I know this sounds ridiculous, but the penguin actually could be Best Supporting Actor material. This penguin is a live penguin.
The penguin was awesome.
It was not Colin Farrell. This was an actual penguin. I don't know how many penguins were used, if it was like 2 or 3.
And were any penguins harmed in the making of the
No, but in fact, the penguin, actually, at one point, he's such a good actor, he plays dead. He's terrific.
That's a spoiler.
He plays dead, but he's
feed him something.
No, it's a very charming movie, directed by Peter Cataneo, and Jonathan Pryce is in it as the stuffy head of the school, and it has a little bit of Dead Poets Society kind of thing going on, but very minor because the real story is about Steve Coogan and the Penguin, and the Penguin is a delight. The movie is very charming.
Yeah,
and
it's pretty
this kind of thing that people, our age, would probably not mind going to see.
All right, man.
We should mention it took place in Argentina during coup season.
Yes.
And
During
I
coup
think
season?
you can, in the mid '70s, and they find the penguin and they rescue it
They
and
rescue
take
the
the oil
penguin
off of it.
from an oil
I'm just
slick.
going to say I'm a huge Steve Coogan fan, and I think he's miscast here. He has none of the charisma.
I so disagree.
He has no charisma with the students the way Dead Poet Society or any of those other movies
because
does.
his
I know it's all about he
relationship
and
is with the
the penguin.
Look.
I'm not recommending the film.
You know how much we hate when we agree, but look, to me, this is basically another white savior story with a cute, with a cute sea creature. Let me talk. It reduces a pivotal Argentinian political struggle to be a mere catalyst for Coogan's characters, whatever his last name is.
So it's Coogan's bluff.
Basically for his personal growth, and in my opinion, it gravely overestimates the charm of both Steve Coogan and the Penguin.
Oh no!
Okay.
Don't knock the Penguin.
Okay.
I just did, man.
It's funny,
I just did.
it's heartwarming, and it works for two reasons. First of all, Steve Coogan, whose cynicism in this particular thing works perfectly. This guy didn't want to be at that school and be teaching these kids.
You're not going to want to be
didn't
at
want
this
to
movie.
adopt a penguin. And when he tells the truth, which I'm not going to say because it's a G-rated show, of the reason why he decided to get the oil off the penguin, it's honest, it's funny. The second reason it works, as Roger said, is this penguin. I'm in love with this thing. I mean, he
All right,
follows
so you
like
guys get a room. Like, it doesn't make the movie
like
that
a puppy.
great.
The penguin follows Steve Coogan's character around everywhere he goes. You just
in
look
the
at
takes
this
they show.
and you melt looking at this particular penguin. I don't know if it was 100 penguins that they used to do this thing. I don't know if it was CGI involved.
No, it wasn't CGI.
Whatever
It's
it
a real
was,
penguin.
I love this penguin, and I highly recommend this.
Literally.
penguin.
Can I just
and
ask
you might
one
say
question?
It's sappy,
One
and you
question.
might say Dead Poets Society with a penguin.
Also,
if
the
you want
penguin
to.
was signed
Can I
by
ask Roger
Buy
CAA.
one
into it and
question?
you'll have a good
One
time.
question. If
Yes.
he's nominated
Yes.
and goes to the Oscars, what will he wear?
Very funny. Well, I had the opportunity to sit down with Steve Coogan and talk about the penguin lessons. Let's take a look at some of that interview. You were great in this movie. And I think what made it work is that the character, which you integrate into a lot of movies, is a very cynical character, funny, dry, cynical. What attracted you to doing this? On paper, it doesn't read as well as when you actually see it. And I go, Steve Coogan in this, really? And you're phenomenal. So what attracted you?
Oh, thank you. That's very kind. Your reaction was my reaction. In fact, when I tell people I say, I'm doing this penguin movie, they kind of like frown and go, what? Why? Like, they don't go, great. They say, why are you doing that? That's like, they think I'm doing some big Disney family movie, and
exactly.
And that's not what I'm not really interested in that. Very entertaining for children, but I not particularly want to do that kind of thing. It's all negotiable, of course, if they. But anyway, but the fact that it's been written by Jeff Pope, who I'd collaborated with before, and he'd been talking to Peter, and I spoke to Peter, and the character shifted to one that I thought was more interesting, which was the real Tom Michel's a much nicer guy and I said, look, let's just make him someone who doesn't like penguins and doesn't like animals and doesn't like kids and is kind of selfish and a little narcissistic. Give him somewhere to go. And the idea of making all the guys sort of drifted through life aimlessly and is kind of disengaged from the world made it more interesting, especially given the backdrop of the political situation in Argentina. So it gave him something to. That thing of, do you give a damn about the rest of the world? Do you even give a damn about the people around you? And those two things he changes his approach to.
In the beginning, the penguin bites you, and then the penguin loves you. And did you have to bond with with the actual animal?
Yes.
Yes. And how do you, Steve? How do you go about doing something like that?
You do it the way you would with any animal. You sort of go into it enthusiastically, and I didn't. They said, oh, some actor they saw, some actor, she donned rubber gloves to hand. She didn't want to touch it, and she was like neurotic about it. And I was like, I don't want to be that person. I want to, get up close and personal with the penguin. And I with the handles, I advised me how to lift it. I lift the penguin up. I stroked it. I talked to it a lot. I wanted to get used to my voice, and I did that every morning. And it wasn't just about making me comfortable with the penguin comfortable. It was a great way to start the day. So it's like if anyone's got a dog, they'll understand, is that you talk to your dog, it kind of de-stresses you. And it was no different with the penguin.
Any hard part of working with this? Any mishaps with the penguin, or we got to do this again?
It only pooped on me once, and I think that's a sign of how much respect he had for me.
You're going down a very dangerous road. You know that. And we ain't been down dangerous roads before. All of a sudden, we can't go down dangerous roads. This is a road that I'm not going down because you're going to take us all down. This is not the way. You know, it's just a matter of time you're going to get pinched. But don't forget, you're a racketeer. You're a gangster. Come on. All of a sudden, you want to be half in, half out, half a racketeer. You can't have it both ways. You're either in or you're out. And whether you're half in or half out, that don't mean you ain't going to get caught the same way I could get caught or I could go down. It's the same thing. Come on, don't be naive. We don't control this, somebody else does.
That was a clip from the new film, The Alto Knights. It happens to be Roger Friedman's personal choice as we go around the panel, as we do every month, with our Critics' Picks of the Month. Roger.
Okay, Alto Knights refers to a social club for the mob in downtown New York in the 40s and 50s. And this is the story of Vito Genovese and Frank Costello, who were frenemies in the mob. They were like warring enemies, warring friends. And the movie is directed by Barry Levinson. It's taken from the same book as Goodfellas, written by Nick Pileggi. The book was called Wise Guy. And as I said, it's directed by Barry, and it stars Robert De Niro playing both lead parts, which is really cool. And I felt that they separated the characters very nicely. I really felt a difference between them. The film looks gorgeous. Dante Spinati is the cinematographer. And there are great performances by women in this movie. Deborah Messing, who's really got her first serious role since Will and Grace. And Catherine Narducci, who was on The Sopranos.
Yeah,
this movie,
it's really
it's worth
bad.
acknowledging it's gotten unilaterally bad reviews.
34% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Well, 34 is better than nothing, and I really liked it.
Lisa, what's your pick?
My pick is Black Bag. It's a London-based spy thriller. It stars secret agent Michael Fassbender and investigating his wife, Cate Blanchett, who's also a secret agent who may or may not have gone rogue. This is fast-paced and clever and guilt-free, pure pleasure, and it's the latest from director, cinematographer, and editor Steven Soderbergh at the top of his form. Honestly, it's the first 2025 movie that I know I'm going to keep on rewatching.
I agree. I loved this movie. I saw it in the theater, and it's like an adult movie. It's for grown-ups.
It's really smart and funny.
Bill, what's your pick?
Well, mine is The One Night Stand from Hell. It's called Strange Darling, and it's the brainchild of J.T. Molnar, who's an actor and also a director. It was shot in 35 millimeter by Giovanni Ribisi, which is, yes, the actor Giovanni Ribisi, and it looks cool. It's a cool oddball movie about Willa Fitzgerald and Kyle Gallner, who are playing kind of a cat and mouse murder mystery game. It's very Tarantino-esque, and I know a lot of movies pretend to be Tarantino-esque, but this is the real deal. You also got Barbara Hershey and Ed Begley Jr. It's currently streaming everywhere. Strange Darling gets one of my highest recommendations.
My pick is the new Apple TV Plus comedy series, The Studio. It was created and stars Seth Rogen as the newly appointed head of a major movie studio. He wants to make highbrow, meaningful films, but the studio's CEO, played by Bryan Cranston, is forcing him to make inane commercial blockbuster movies that'll make the studio a lot more money. It's about the trials and tribulations that Rogen has to go through, along with his colleagues, played by Kathryn Hahn and Catherine O'Hara. It's a funny and sharp inside takedown of Hollywood, as this cast of characters has absolutely no scruples as they lie, cheat, and backstab their way to get ahead. There's lots of celebrity cameos from the likes of Martin Scorsese, Ron Howard, and Olivia Wilde, just to name a few, and they're often playing nasty versions of themselves. And although this subject matter has been mined before in the movie The Player and such TV shows as Reboot and Episodes, the new comedy The Studio does a great job of it too. Check it out.
I feel like this show's strength is also its weakness, which is that it loves movies so much that it doesn't have very sharp elbows in its satire. I also don't see anything in Rogen's character that indicates he would be a studio head, but they are all such talented comic actors with so many good meta flourishes, like its nod to other movies like The Player, that I was in anyway. I mean, I love these actors. I just, it doesn't really have any kind of fangs.
Well, that's about all the time we have. I want to thank Bill McCuddy, Lisa Rosman, and Roger Friedman. I'm Neil Rosen. Join us next time on Talking Pictures.